It's a very special New Year's Eve episode. We are joined by a couple of our Locked On Dodgers insiders to relive the 2024 Dodgers season and talk Dodgers with some of our internet friends. Let's get started on Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And your team is the World Series champion, the World Series champion Dodgers. This is Locked On Dodgers. I get all confused. It's New Year's. We're going to try to start 2025 by doing the intro right tomorrow. But today we're messing it up as much as we want. It is the last day of the year. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And you can subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now to make it easier on yourself to find it. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snider. My normal co-host is Vince Samperio, although it's just me today, but it's not really just me because I will have three special guests, one at a time, some of our Locked On Dodgers insiders. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like most of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we bring you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And get started we will. Today, we are going to be joined by three of our Locked On Dodgers insiders. If you want to become a Locked On Dodgers insider, just go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers to give you a chance to be involved in these kind of listener episodes in the future. And also, you can text direct with us. There's a new Discord server for our insiders to talk Dodgers with each other. A lot of fun, so check that out. But we are going to talk about, with some of our insiders, some of their favorite moments of the season, and they're going to try to stump me with some baseball trivia. So with all of that said, let's see. Our first guest is going to be, you know him as Jackson's dad. We know him as Mike Markham. Let's get Mike in here. And there's Mike. Mike, how the heck are you?
Hey, Jeff, doing good. Hey, thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. Happy to have you. Mike is one of my favorite insiders. Well, Mike's son is one of my favorite insiders. We tolerate Mike because Jackson's cool.
Yep.
And Jackson's one of our youngest everydayers. And so Mike, first tell me, how long you been a Dodger fan?
I believe since about 1971, 72, something like that. It's been a long time.
Yeah, that's before I was born, and I'm pretty old. So you're even older than me.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. So, yeah, I remember I grew up in Eastern Oregon and listened on the radio to Vince and Jerry and Russ, and just that was the sound of my youth, listening to those guys on the radio broadcast Dodger games.
Excellent. Who was your favorite player growing up?
Steve Garvey.
Nice. That's a good one. I met Steve Garvey at the baseball winter meetings in San Diego back in 2019. Met him briefly, so that was fun. Well, let's jump right in. Let's talk about what was your favorite moment of the season. I'm hoping all three of you don't just say Freddie Freeman's grand slam.
No,
too
obvious.
Yeah, it is a little too obvious. I think that's kind of the default. That's everybody's favorite. But besides that, tell me about it.
Well, I have two. One off the field, one on the field. Awesome. I'll start with the on the field moment, which the game itself was kind of it was a bummer because it was against the Padres. It was July 31st, but it was Michael Kopech's first game, and we had no idea what he was going to do as a Dodger, and so he came in and he hit 3 strikeouts. So I thought, now we have a really powerful reliever, which proved through the rest of the season how good he was. So I thought that was a huge moment and one of my favorite, just to see how overpowering he can be.
Yeah, Kopech is fun to watch. And I remember people were immediately clamoring for him to be the closer. And it's like, well, let's pump the brakes a little bit. But yeah, he ended up pitching some huge innings for the Dodgers and got some big outs in the regular season and in the postseason. So that's a fun one.
Yeah, I always like to watch those relievers hit 100 plus. So that was always a great. My off the field moment, it would have to be Teoscar Hernandez at the stadium, getting so emotional over the win. So
After the parade.
yeah, I thought that would just really signified what kind of a person he was or he is. So really enjoyed that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of the moment when I think we all realized they have to bring this dude back. Like as much as he wants to be here, as much as the city loves him, bring this guy back. And so I'm glad they did. That was good.
Yeah, and his constant smile, his throwing the sunflower seeds. It's always, I think that's the part about the home runs when Dodgers hit the home runs. You look forward to Teoscar's big smile and his sunflower rain. So those are my moments.
I wonder if it's hard for Dodger haters to have Ohtani, Mookie, Freddie, and Teoscar, who are four of the most likable people in the world. It's like, how do you hate this thing? Like Max Muncy, I understand how somebody hates the Dodgers could not like Max Muncy. He's got that edge to him. I love Max Muncy, but those four, it's like, how could anybody not like them? So
yeah, and you had Rojas in there. He's such a likable guy too.
Yeah, so. Just don't tell that to Jazz Chisholm. So, all right, what baseball trivia do you got for me, Mike?
Okay, you're gonna know this. I mean, that's
my favorite kind of trivia.
Okay, so who was Kershaw's coming up on 3,000 strikeouts. He's gonna get it this year. When he comes back. So who was his 1,000th strikeout victim and who was his 2,000th strikeout victim?
That's actually really good because I don't know if I have any idea. I would have to have seen. Was Paul Goldschmidt one of them?
No.
Huh. I have no idea. Then, Mike, you stumped me, and that's about my favorite player. Tell me the answers.
Okay, Brandon Belt was number 1,000.
Okay, that back before the Giants realized they should just stop letting Brandon Belt play against Kershaw because later he just sat every time Kershaw pitched. So
okay. And then Jonathan Villar was number 2,000.
Interesting. I think he's most famous for that highlight when he was on the Astros and when the Astros were really bad and he slid head first and ended up with his face in the second baseman's butt. And people were like, that's the Astros in a nutshell.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
That was a very good trivia question, and I had no idea, but now I do. Brandon Belt and Jonathan Villar. That's
Now we're gonna have to predict who his 3,000th victim will be when it gets closer. When we find out when he's coming back. So
I'm gonna make a prediction right now. It's gonna be Manny Machado. So
okay. I'll say Fernando Tatis.
Nice. Maybe he'll strike them both out at the same time. So
okay, very good.
Well, that was awesome, Mike. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate all our everydayers, but like I said, you are one of my favorites, and so I appreciate you being here with us. Say hi to Jackson for me.
I will. Thank you.
I'm going to boot you out now, and we will come back in a second. I'm going to. Let's see if I can get my right background back up here. There we go. Another one of my favorite insiders is with me. I'm going to come back in a minute, talk with my friend Stefanie. And so first, I'm going to talk to you about some ads. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's right, just make a $5 bet, and if it wins, you get $250 in bonus bets. Easiest way to do that, you look at the NFL schedule, and you've got, for example, this weekend, the Ravens are playing the Browns. The Ravens are minus 2,000 favorites over the Browns. There's no guarantees, but And that's as pretty close to as guarantees you can get. So you put $5 on the Ravens, and when the Ravens win, you'll get $250 in bonus bets. There's other ways for you to pick up a W. You can bet on which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score. It can be really thrilling. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, I am back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Thanks for being here with us on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, whenever you're listening or watching. We appreciate it. Again, we are doing a special Locked On Dodgers Insider episode where we are talking with some of our insiders about their favorite moments of the 2024 Dodgers season. And they're going to try to stump me with some baseball trivia. We are 1 for 1 on me being stumped, so that's good. Remember, for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB, hosted by our buddy Paul Francis Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully. If you're listening or watching on New Year's Eve, check that out. Locked On MLB's episode today is me talking to Sully about the Dodgers winning the World Series. We recorded it about a week and a half ago, back when I hardly had a voice, but it was still a lot of fun. So be sure to check that out. Also, check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On MLB, 2 24/7 streaming channels over on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. And of course, if you want to be a Locked On Dodgers insider, go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. And with that said, we are going to jump into our next conversation. We are bringing in, I got to get all of my backgrounds and everything. We are hopping in with Stefanie Hyder. How the heck are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Jeff. This is fun. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. I'm happy you're here. You and I have been internet friends for a while now. You are one of the 11 people who bought the book I wrote, all sorts of stuff. So I appreciate you being here. And tell me about your Dodger fandom. How long have you been a Dodger fan?
Since I was 9, which was the year of the Kirk Gibson home run. Really, we're about the same age, right? That makes sense.
I was 11, so yeah.
Okay. Same.
Yeah.
It's just my first baseball memory is Dennis Eckersley for some reason. I mean, I had a friend that loved the A's, and it just got really tense at school. And then sitting there watching Kirk Gibson slam the home run. I think I also had a Oral Hershiser Cy Young T-shirt that I wore to 4th grade very proudly.
I had a good friend who was an A's fan too. He was a big Jose Canseco fan and an A's fan. That friend is in prison for murder now. So, I won twice, I guess,
Yeah.
My team won the World Series and I never murdered anybody.
You won life.
Never got caught murdering anybody. And you're not in Southern California either, right?
I'm not. I grew up there and then kind of moved around, lived in New York for 6 years, DC, back to LA. I was a lawyer at a big firm and got kind of burnt out. So my husband's from the Portland, Oregon area. And Portland is where young people move to retire. So I did.
Nice.
And now I teach yoga.
2 for 2 on Oregonians.
Yeah.
Mike is from a little town called Gaston, apparently, which is near Hillsborough.
Yeah, we're not far. We'll have to meet up.
Thank
you. Oh, there's my son.
Awesome. We love cameos.
Yes, Liam, keep it quiet, please.
I was telling Mike before we started, Oregon is a state that I've been to, but only technically, because I when I was in college, a friend of mine needed to go home to Oregon to pick up her sister to come visit. And so she had called me and said, hey, you want to go on a road trip? So we hopped in her car and we drove to Klamath Falls, which is barely into Oregon.
Yeah.
And it was the middle of the night when we got there. And then we got her sister and turned around and came back. So I've been in Oregon for an hour and a half and it was dark the whole time. But
well, if you ever find your way up here, Mike and I can give you a good tour.
That's good to know. My brother lived in Portland for over a decade and I never went to visit him. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I'd like to go there sometime.
Okay. Good.
So let's talk about your favorite Dodgers moment of the season, Stefanie. What do you got?
Yeah. Well, I tried to prepare some notes.
Look at you. That's the attorney in you coming out.
Yeah, a little bit. I wrote 2 easy. Freddie's Grand Slam, Shohei in Miami, and winning the World Series.
Those were all very good moments, but yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, Kiké's postseason dominance. I love Kiké. Everybody does. And so I was quickly like trying to Google.
Did he just crawl out of the room like that one news clip?
He
awesome.
did.
I love it.
That's my Liam. So Liam's kind of why I love Kiké so much. So he hit that 2-run homer at Citi Field against the Mets. I don't remember what game it was, but just any time that he shines. And part of why I love Kiké so much, I don't know if you caught the interview where he was talking about, someone asked him probably for the millionth time, how are you able to lock in the postseason so well? Why, and he said, it's my ADHD. I can't sustain that focus all year, but I can really hyper focus and lock in the postseason. And that little crawling monkey behind me just got diagnosed with ADHD. And we're coming at it like this is a superpower you have. And Kiké is like the coolest person ever to show him and be like, that's what you can do.
That's very cool. Yeah, that's I had kind of that same thought. My daughter has ADHD. I sometimes assume that I have been an undiagnosed ADHDer for most of my life.
My husband calls it 80s HD, which just means nobody knew what was wrong with you. It was the 80s.
And for me, I mean, I was, I definitely, you look at my desk, the bobbleheads look organized behind me, but that's the only part of this office that looks neat. And, there's a lot to that. And so, yeah, that resonated with me when Kiké said that for sure. That's very cool. So,
yeah, I love that guy. One other thing I loved, I'm a sucker, not so much for like the stats. I'm never going to remember numbers like that, but it's the human side of it that I love so much. And watching, you'll like this, Ellen Kershaw, watch Clayton's first game back, just the love. She was crying. I was crying. I that's the stuff I love.
Ellen and Clayton are adorable. They've been together since they were in junior high. And I was in an elevator at Dodger Stadium one time with Ellen and Charlie and Callie when it was just the two kids back then. And, I was just like, I'm in the presence of greatness here. So that was fun. You got a baseball trivia question for me, Stefanie?
Technically, I'm going to slide in. This is about baseball, and I'm going to call it trivia because I don't know the answer, but it is something I've always wanted to know. You are going to know it. So your stats.
Well, that's what Mike said, and then I didn't know his.
No, it would be odd if you didn't know this. How did you and Vince meet? It's about baseball.
All right. We'll call it trivia. That would be weird if I didn't know the answer to this. We're coming up on 10 years, February or March of 2015. I think it was early March. And Vince was working for Dodgers Nation at the time. I was working for Baseball Central, and we were both covering the Dodgers at spring training down at Camelback Ranch. And we were on the backfield watching batting practice. Actually, it was Kiké Hernández, first time I ever saw him in person, because the Dodgers had just traded for him a month or two earlier. And he was taking BP and just hitting these home runs over the batter's eye in center field. And I'm like, this guy is 110 pounds, 3'7". How is he hitting the ball that hard? Like, that was my first impression of Kiké was, holy crap, that dude has way more power than he looks like he should. And so I was just kind of watching that. And Vince was there. There was only a handful of us, 4 or 5 of us media people there on the field behind the batting cages watching batting practice. Mark McGwire was there. He's talking to Jock Peterson that same day. Jock was a rookie. And I heard Jock ask Mark McGwire, I was looking at the stats, man, how'd you hit so many home runs? And I couldn't tell if it was just the best deadpan delivery ever, or if Jock had legitimately never heard of the steroid era before. I still don't know the answer if Jock is just very good at playing the straight man or just very clueless. I at the time, what was that TV show on HBO? Kevin Spacey was on House of Cards. I was watching House of Cards, and I hadn't watched the most recent episode, and Mark McGwire almost spoiled it for me because he was talking to Chris Heisey about it, and I had to step back because I realized Mark McGwire's about to spoil the last episode of House of Cards for me. So, but that was a day that Vince and I met. We just started talking to each other, and we'll follow each other on Twitter. And then it was about a year later that I just suggested to him we should start a Dodgers podcast. So we started the Scully Avenue podcast. We did that for 3 years. And then David Locke, the owner of the Locked On Podcast Network, reached out to me and said, do you want to start doing it 5 days a week and change the name? And I said, not even a little bit. And he said, pretty please. And I said, okay. And so we did. And that, I guess, as they say, is history. But that's it was a question I knew the answer to. So I appreciate that. So.
To me, it was trivia.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey.
Well, thank you. I love it. And being not in LA, and just not surrounded by other Dodger fans, it's been so nice to listen to you guys every day. It's made me a better fan and feel more connected to the team. So
well, I appreciate that. And honestly, it's the same for me because I'm not in LA either, and so it gives me my connection to Dodger fans where, I don't talk to a lot of Dodger fans in person on a day. I don't talk to a lot of people on a daily basis. I'm in my office down here. And, but even when I do go out, most of them aren't Dodger fans. So, I appreciate all of my internet Dodger fans because it keeps me connected too. So, well, thank you, Stefanie. I appreciate you hopping on with us. And we will hopefully do this again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jeff.
All right. So Stefanie is gone out of here, but I appreciate her. I'm going to come back in a minute. We will have finally a Californian, although another not Angelino. But from a different part of California, our friend Dan will join us in just a second after I read another ad. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Look, I love sports. I love concerts. I love comedy shows. The thing they all have in common is buying tickets, and that means the other thing they have in common is you can find the best price on Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I mentioned to you the other day, I was looking for tickets to a Utah Jazz game for my sons for Christmas, and I went to Game Time. I went to the other sites too, and let me tell you, I didn't have to use the Game Time guarantee because they already had the best price. The Game Time guarantee tells you if you get the lowest, if you don't get the lowest price on Game Time, they'll credit you 110% of the difference. You can also turn on all-in pricing, which will show you the total prices up front with no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying your tickets to your favorite events with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Hey, I am back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks for being in every day, or if you're not, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. You can also become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. And sometimes when you're a Locked On Dodgers insider, that gives you the opportunity to hop on a New Year's Eve episode to talk Dodgers with us. And that's what our friend Dan Weitzman has done. And let's see if I can get Dan in here. There is Dan. Dan, thank you for being with me, my friend.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm in LA actually right now.
Excellent. You live in Sacramento, right?
Yeah, but I have a home I grew up in LA and I have a home in LA. So
awesome. Yeah. What are you doing in LA right now?
So my son's applying to colleges, Max. And so University of Oregon's in the Rose Bowl, so they had a big reception for all their admitted students that were checking out. So we saw the team, we saw the band, just kind of hanging out. A lot of Dodger fans, which is a wonderful feeling. Living in Sacramento is like living in occupied territory.
Yeah.
Giants. And so having the freedom of wearing my Dodger hat in public feels really good.
Absolutely. Yeah. My uncle, the Giants fan, lives in Sacramento. And so, he grew up in Southern California, but by the time the Dodgers moved to town, he had already chosen the Giants because Willie Mays was his favorite player. So he remains the only Giants fan in a family of Dodger fans, including his own children. Grew up correctly. They grew up Dodger fans.
I have friends that are Giants fans, but they love Sandy Koufax. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. So you grew up in LA then? That's how you became a Dodger fan?
Yeah, I was a Dodger fan all the way through till 82. And then in 82, when they cut Garvey, I became a Padre fan for 4 years because I was a big Garvey guy. And then when Garvey retired, I went back to my Dodgers. But I always was a Dodger fan. I just was mad that they got rid of Garvey.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. How old were you when Garvey left?
So I was 11.
Okay.
So I was 10 going on 11 when they won the World Series in 81. That was a big deal. And I was watching when Garvey hit that home run for the Padres.
Yep, against the Cubs.
And it's the Cubs, and so it was a big deal. Unfortunately, I've learned a lot about him since, which is not so good.
We won't dig into that too much. So let's talk about this season. Tell me your favorite Dodgers moment of this season. And, I was telling the other people, probably don't want to dwell too much on Freddie's Grand Slam. I think that's kind of the default, everybody's favorite moment. But what else do you have for me?
Well, can I tell you the Freddie moment too?
Absolutely.
So my son and I were there. We went to last second, we got tickets. We were sitting there. I was worried that it was going to be a pain in the ass. At the last second, my guy got me a good parking spot, so that was good. And so we're there, and we're watching the game. We're having a lot of fun. There was a couple New York fans ahead of us, and we were threatening them because they were getting kind of crappy with us. And it was like, you saw the Shohei foul out, and you're like, oh, God, here we go again, right? Another playoff game, another Dodger quick loss. And then they walked Mookie. And I'm like, I looked over at my neighbor, and I said, that's not going to be good. Because remember, I saw the Red Sox walk Mookie to get to Freddie, and Freddie hit a grand slam in their first game a few months earlier. So I said, this is not going to be good. So when Freddie hit the ball, and I tell this story to everyone, I literally thought I had a stroke. I thought that somehow, some way, I had died, and that this was heaven, and the ball was going over, and I'd finally died, and that was it, and this was my dream. And then
that's what heaven's like in your mind, huh?
Yeah, I look over, and then I see the Mookie jumping around, and I see the music start playing, and I realize, oh my God, it's a real home run. It's not going to go foul. It's not going to be short. This was real. And then I had a seizure, like a little emotional seizure, start jumping around. And at that moment, I realized this, aside from the birth of my kids and my marriage, this was one of the greatest moments of my life. And I got to share it with my boy. So
that's awesome.
And I remember 88, right, with Kurt.
Yep.
And I said to myself, if this works out, which I think it is, this is going to be a moment. And usually I get upset about having to deal with the parking lot, but this time I didn't. I was 100% not worried. I said, if I get home at 11:30, because I'm downtown, I don't care. But a great moment, aside from all that, because, that was just like crazy, is when we were there when Shohei hit that grand slam to go 40-40.
Nice.
And that was another moment which we just couldn't believe.
So you were there in person for both walk-off grand slams this year?
And Freddie's walk-off grand slam against the Red Sox.
That one wasn't a walk-off, was it?
No, it was the top of the eighth, so they had three. That's right. They had to
yeah.
But yeah, it was amazing. But yeah, we've been very lucky. This year we went to about probably 15 games.
Saw some good ones. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's so much fun. I was with my son watching on TV for Freddie's Grand Slam. I was down at his baseball tournament.
With the pillow, right?
What's that?
With the pillow?
Yep. Clutching my pillow, and with 30 people in the house, my son's whole baseball team and all their parents. And yeah, a moment I'll never forget. And you remember I did the live episode after that, and I said, it's going to come down to what happens the rest of this series to determine where this rates compared to Kirk Gibson's. Now the Dodgers won the World Series. Yeah, it's pretty darn remarkable, amazing.
Game 5 was scary because I was 5-0 and I drove home, and I'm like, oh, this sucks. I came back, and when we came back in the 5th inning, I'm like, oh my God, this is real. And then we got the 6th run, and I just remember at the 9th inning we had 2 outs, and I didn't know what to do. Like I had like 5 jerseys laid out. I was too nervous to move because any slight move might jinx it. So when we won, it was just like couldn't believe it. Champagne shower and
I almost don't understand. Like you see all the people's reaction videos of them jumping around. Like, how are you doing anything other than sitting on the couch clutching a pillow in the fetal position? And and then like my family just piled on top of me. You know, it's like we did the dog pile on the couch, but didn't get video of it. All right.
Sport's so great.
Yeah, it is for sure. You got a baseball trivia question for me?
Let me think about this. What I was thinking. So it's called Locked On Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
But it's not Locked On Dodgers. It's the guy Locke, right? And
David Locke. Yeah.
How did David Locke get started?
So David Locke is the radio play-by-play guy for the Utah Jazz. He's a basketball broadcaster, and he started a podcast, a decade or so ago, Locked On Jazz. It was basically just him talking about the Jazz.
Yeah.
And then, it's kind of funny. Locke isn't even his real last name. It's his stage name. He has a more ethnic sounding name.
Okay.
So Locke is his Americanized version of his name.
Yeah.
But then he kind of realized, that it's got the brand and podcasting might be a thing. And he started the network, and he started with just reaching out to other basketball teams. So they started with just every NBA team had a Locked On podcast, and then they eventually branched into the other sports. And now there's basketball, football, hockey, baseball, college sports. There's, I think 250 or so.
That's all him?
He's the owner of the network. Well, I mean, he's sold the network. He still runs the network. It's been bought by a bigger media conglomerate. But yeah, so he built the whole network. David Locke did, and found each of us hosts to experts on each team to do a Locked On show about each team.
That's amazing, because I listen to Locked On Dodgers, Locked On Lakers, Locked On Steelers, and then there's a Locked On Kings too with the guys I know. But that's an amazing franchise.
Yeah. It's a fun network to be a part of. It was, like I was telling Stefanie, Vince and I podcasted for 3 years together, just, once a week. Yes, you're kind of normal two dudes talking about baseball for an hour a week. And we made a total of, whatever negative $15 a month is times 3 years. Cause there was no revenue coming. It was just me paying to host the podcast somewhere. And this has given us the opportunity to actually make a little money on it, which means we can put more time and effort into it and spend more time doing it. So it's been a lot of fun for sure.
But is this your full-time job?
Not. Vince has a real full-time job. I've had a few full-time jobs. I've had a lot of careers over the years. And so, I do other things too.
Okay.
But I don't really have anything I would call a full-time job. So, yeah. So
that's pretty cool. I mean, Locked On Network, it's like synonymous. It's like Coke.
Yeah. That's the goal. That's what we're trying to turn it into is, have something for every fan. That's what the network's motto is, your team every day. That's the thing. Whoever your favorite team is, there's a daily podcast about them from the Locked On Network.
That is no joke. That's amazing. That's fantastic.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun. So, all right. Well, we're about out of time with you and about out of time for the show. So, Dan, thank you for hopping in. Enjoy your time in LA. Good luck to your son on his college search. And glad you mentioned University of Oregon. So now all three of our guests had Oregon ties. Our first two guests both live in Oregon. So, now we've got University of Oregon. So it's a very Oregon episode of Locked On Dodgers. So, Dan, we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks again for doing the show and making us updated, and have a happy new year.
Appreciate it. You too.
See you.
All right. That will do it for me for today. Thank you to Dan and Mike and Stefanie for hopping in with me today. Appreciate it. This was a lot of fun talking Dodgers with our insiders. If you want to become a Locked On Dodgers insider, go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Also be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now so you can be an everydayer. Check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, the two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog, and both of our DMs are open over there. You can also email us at lockedondodgers@gmail.com or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK 5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.